Fantom holders are having a really bad day. It seems as though one of the godfathers behind the ecosystem, or many of the dApps on the ecosystem, is actually decided to rage quit or rug pull and up and quit DeFi altogether, pulling out 25 projects all at once in an abrupt tweet made today. Let's talk about it. I'm going to start with this Twitter post, which pretty much sums up what has happened. Fantom Foundation member and the contributor of around 25 of Fantom's ecosystem protocols, Andre last name and Anton Nell, just came out of nowhere to announce that they are leaving all projects and terminating all of those protocols from April 3rd. They literally just released a new DEX a few days ago. All of these projects' token value are currently in free fall. Some people are losing their life savings just because these guys decided out of the blue that they're shutting down all their services. Now, what I will say to this is that I'm not going to dive too deep on Andre's actual decision to pull out of it. It sounds like this is a bit of a tantrum from somebody who's quite wealthy and really doesn't have to worry about much indeed. So it seems as though it's a sad set of affairs, the fact that he would do it so abruptly, and obviously knowing that this is going to have some detrimental effect. Pulling 25 working projects or in the works projects that are currently out there or working on is a really big blow to a lot of people who have invested either time, effort, or money into these projects. And I think this is, again, I'm going to put this as a tantrum from a sad little man who wants to be in the background. And even though he can't hang big enough to it, and hopefully nobody gives him too many keys in the future. That said, I'm sure there's a lot of advocates out there, and I have seen it on Twitter. There's a lot of people saying that this was not a malicious rug pull. Now, that's something that you first comes to thought, was this a rug pull to look out and get money? He had made plenty of money before this, obviously throughout all of his development, and the reason he has the status he has today is due to a lot of great working apps that people are very fond of. I just think the way he went about it, again, shows the character of a man, and it is something kind of sad and tantrum-like. So one thing I would say to that would be, grow up, Andre, be an adult and phase out properly, and don't burn bridges, because I think you've burned a lot of bridges for people at this moment the way you handled yourself today. That said, I don't want to dive too much more into it, but really considering what we can see out there in the crypto land metaverse, what's going on, what people are thinking, and where we can look to save ourselves from the free fall if you have any Fantom. I do myself have a very small amount of my portfolio in Fantom. It isn't enough for me to get upset about, but it definitely doesn't feel nice to see it go down just because of a tweet. I'm gonna head on over to TradingView so we can have a quick analysis of what's going on, what the market looks like on a better scale than, say, CoinMarketCap. And as you can see, I put this here. We're currently at about a 16-17% one-day drop, which is a significant one. But I will note it isn't the worst one that we've seen for this particular ecosystem, this particular token, or let alone nothing compared to what happens when Bitcoin decides to tank on some of these major highs. So those were definitely some serious moves, but that said, it still is quite large and one of the larger ones based on a set of news that is not Bitcoin related. I would kind of draw attention to this angle here and this angle of attack here, both being really driven by Bitcoin and its propensity to move things around. I would also note that there were several days here where Bitcoin had decided to retrace off of 44,000, where we've been kind of going sideways for a bit. It has brought it down. It was already on its way down. All altcoin classes, and we can check that on CoinMarketCap, they're all kind of down a little bit here too. So we can take this as knowing that you might have already been down a little bit anyway, and it's probably not as bad as it could have been. The market, or maybe it's worse because the market was going down. That said, I do think it was already on its way to that trajectory. And if there are going to be buyers, those buyers are going to be waiting. They already were waiting. They sold out at the top. They sold out up here at this point here, and they are moving their way or preparing to get back in. That said, I have put down loosely a couple of lines here in blue that you can see, which would be sort of some resistance measures that we can look to keep an eye on here. And you can see we're coming into this area of testing this one here somewhere. Again, it's loosely thrown in here. You may want to argue that this should be more down here. Which I think would probably be a better place for it. So it really hasn't been tested, honestly, and I'll take that out so you can see it. Wouldn't really call it to have been tested. I feel like that's a better placement of it, but somewhere in this region you can see. So we're looking somewhere in the $1.30 range, which is where we're sitting now. We're sitting at about, we're at $1.37. It could go all the way down to the low $1.30 or high $20s. And honestly, the next resistance levels are looking like low dollar, right down here. And from here, then it would just kind of be a bit more of a drop to potentially at 80 cents and then got a free fall from there. I really don't think it's actually going to get to that, and that's why I wanted to show you there. We have a couple of lines to keep an eye on that should be there as protection to hold on to it. That said, a big thing coming out of the community when you jump over to Twitter or Reddit is actually the fact that people are showing a lot of support for the ecosystem. We've seen a lot of other current dApps on the ecosystem coming out on Twitter and mentioning that, hey, Andre's not a part of this project, or he hasn't been a part of this project for a very long time. So there is some really good news coming out of it. And I'm seeing a lot of just individuals calling for the fact that this is a true test of DeFi, and not any one individual should really be in that kind of control when it comes to actual DeFi space. So I think some of the centralized versions, the ones he's actually pulling off of, are going to be in a little bit of trouble. Although it has been noted that technically any of the infrastructure that's been put in place for a lot of these smart contracts that are building the building blocks for those platforms that he's building, he's essentially probably just shutting down a website. Those building blocks will still be there and could allow someone to attach onto them and really finish up the project, putting up a website and connecting to them. That said, do you really want someone else to jump in the back end and maybe not quite have the reputation, although it hasn't been very good for him because he pulled out anyway, but having a reputation and just starting off the back of wherever he had started. So I don't know how I would feel about something new coming up on it, but I do think that this is going to be a very interesting test of DeFi and the space as a whole. There has been a good outcry from people in support and some people who are kind of pissed off, but generally people just saying, don't worry, it's not going to be the end of the world. The projects are going to continue going up in the right direction. So I think that that's good news as a whole. What can you do with your actual bags? What should you do? Pull out? Should you stay in? Personally, I did pull out. Mine wasn't enough to really fill this thing, like I said, as much as I could have potentially, but I want to pull out and wait to see where things level off. Now, this isn't financial advice, but I pulled out to see where that price will end up stabilizing a little bit if we do see those buyers come in on any of those resistance levels. And I want to see where it is, ready to jump back in. I do think that in the next day or two, we're going to see any of the other buyers who are waiting in the wings ready to jump in, because it's going to start dipping, and if it dips too far, people are going to have to see that as an opportunity to get in, again showing the resilience in this ecosystem if it is there. So I would probably like to see a little bit of a confirmation that that's happened, either trade sideways a little bit, just telling me that we've actually stopped the tanking, and maybe even a tip up, even potentially a double top, a double bottom would be a great sign for me that we could see rise back on up. Then I would jump back into the ecosystem. I actually had a little bit of money in the Beefy protocol, which I think is kind of fun, the auto compounding protocol, which is great. And I was actually about to make a video on it because I hadn't been using it for very long, but it was one of those ones that was doing okay for me up until now. So that said, Beefy is actually on many other ecosystems, so you could still check it out. It still has the same features that you would want from an auto compounder for you. So really just want to make this quick video to maybe put a little bit of inspiration out there, or a little bit of taking some of the FUD away from it, because I really don't think it's all warranted. I think this is the perfect opportunity. Once I read all about this, I was noted today right off of Twitter feed. I think we're going to see a few more people coming in through into Monday and Tuesday. It is Sunday. They're not necessarily knowing about this. Not everyone trades on the weekends. They probably go out and spend time with their families, unlike the rest of us degens. So there's going to be a little bit of action in the next day or two. So let's keep an eye out for that action. Let's see what happens out there. And honestly, anyone out there who's doing pretty poorly with this little dump here, just remember, hold down. The market was already on its way. If you were holding already, you still should hold. The project still seems to be a good project. Fundamentally, it's really cheap transaction fees. I have been enjoying what I have been using on the Fantom network. And it is one of those that I should probably cover a little bit more in detail, but it seems to have a big base behind it. If you do believe in it, it's probably something you want to hold on to for the time being. So I really don't know what else to say other than a little bit of inspiration, and hopefully we can see this turn back around here soon, or just kind of trade sideways. Again, if Bitcoin keeps falling, what are we going to do? It's going to keep falling. But again, I would just say to all of you out there who are holding bags, stick in there, and we're all in this together. And really, this is the best I can do for you, is a fist bump. I'll see you in the next video.